Thank you. I'm Jennifer Winter. I'm also here virtually, and Dr. Hudson will be helping us in person to present the certificates for some of our young scholars who are attending. So each year, PTC strives to recognize the contributions of the academic world to our industry through the PTC Young Scholar program and our research awards. PTC is the only stage that brings together this entire ecosystem of the telecommunications industry, from globally recognized companies to newly emerging players, along with the regulators and the academics that influence the future of our industry. Together, researchers, academics, authors, and of course, students shape where the innovation of this industry will go. Elizabeth.
Aloha. We're thrilled for the return of the PTC Young Scholar program. It's now in its 8th year. This program recognizes exceptional up-and-coming academics from all over the world carrying out research in the field of telecom and ICT. Our group of scholars, they'll be presenting the work from their specializations in telecom and ICT in the Young Scholar session, which is Tuesday, tomorrow morning, January 18th in the Coral 2 Ballroom, and also accessible online.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And just to note, 2 of our young scholars are here in person this year, and we also have one who's online with us. I'll be introducing each of the young scholars and asking them to briefly note the content and summary of their papers. The 2022 PTC Young Scholar recipients are Arizo Agbo, postdoctoral scholar and research associate at the Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism at the University of Southern California.
All right, and I'm Heather Hudson presenting the award to Arisa. Say a few words.
Thank you for this award. My research that I'll be presenting and talking about tomorrow looks at the digital divide issues in developing countries using Nigeria as a case study. In the work I'll be looking at, I will be talking about the impact of price reduction or addressing the affordability barrier on demand for broadband. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next young scholar is not here with us today. Raymond Unoha, doctoral candidate at the Nelson Mandela School of Public Governance at the University of Cape Town. As I noted, unfortunately, he's not able to be present today, but I will move on to our next young scholar, Godofredo Ramizo Jr., who has recently completed his PhD at the University of Oxford. He is here online with us. Godo, would you mind saying a few words about your research?
Sure, thank you so much. Really a great pleasure to be here, and good day to you all. My research asks the following questions. How do consumers behave on mobile digital platforms or algorithmic platforms? What tricks and strategies do they employ? And lastly, I answer, what are the implications of these consumer strategies on their own welfare? And of course, the companies and industry members running these platforms and ecosystems. Looking forward to see many of you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Godo, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Godo. And our last young scholar this year is Natalia Wright, who is a doctoral candidate at the Harvard Business School. She's here in person, and Dr. Hudson will be presenting the certificate on stage.
Thank you so much for this award. And my research tomorrow will be exploring how digital product platforms impact entrepreneurial growth around the world and which types of technology ventures in particular benefit from them. So very much looking forward to it.
Excellent, thank you very much. And now I'll turn it back over to Elizabeth.
Thank you. I'll be announcing the Best Paper Awards. First of all, the Student Paper Award. This is the Yale and Braunstein Award, and it's given for the best student paper submitted to the PTC conference. It's named in honor of Yale Braunstein, who is a longtime participant and contributor to the PTC research community. Dr. Braunstein's contribution to students, along with his advocacy to get a new generation involved in PTC, is immeasurable. So the award for 2022 goes to Xin Yuan. Xin is a doctoral student at the Southwest Xiaotong University in China. And her paper is titled "Different Types of Internet Use and the Perceived Impact of the Internet on Social Mobility." And this was based on results from a national survey in China. So Xin, do you want to say a couple words about your paper? Yeah. And Xin is online. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I'm Qin, a doctoral student at Southwest Jiaotong University of China. It's my great honor to accept this award. My paper is about different types of internet use and the perceived impact of the internet on social mobility. In recent years, the issue of the rejection of the social structure in China has attracted popular and major attraction. However, little is known about the effects of internet use on perceived social mobility. Based on a nationally representative survey, this study examined that different types of internet use and the impact of the internet on social mobility. That's all. Thank you.
Yay, thank you. And Chin will be presenting Wednesday morning in a research session. Okay, moving to our final award, the Meheroo Jussawalla Research Award, which is given every year to the best participant research paper submitted to PTC. And it's named in honor of the late international telecommunications scholar, Meheroo Jussawalla. She was a leading scholar in the economics of telecommunications. She published 15 books in her field, garnered many awards, and was the founder of the PTC Research Committee. So the award for 2022 goes to Dr. George Ford. Dr. Ford is the chief economist at the Phoenix Center for Advanced Legal and Economic Public Policy Studies. And his paper is titled "Race and Broadband Adoption, a Decomposition Analysis." So Dr. Ford, would you like to tell us a little bit about your paper?
Sure, thanks. I appreciate the award. It's an honor. I hate that I'm not there. I was there a couple of years ago and had a great time, and will do my best to submit another paper and show up in person next year. It's a good spot for a conference. My paper, like many papers at the conference, apparently addressed the digital divide. There are many digital divides. I think a new one is talked about every day, but the one I was addressing is the racial digital divide. In the United States, we see that some minority communities, not all, but some, adopt the internet, at least at home, in terms of a fixed connection, less than whites do, which is the majority of the population. And it's also true that several of these minority communities have lower economic resources in things that matter: income, education, the things that drive broadband demand. So the question I sought to answer was, do the differences in economic endowments explain fully the differences in adoption, or are there cultural or some other factors that contribute to the difference in the adoption rates, the means difference in the adoption rates among racial groups? I use this typical approach for this sort of thing, which is decomposition, Oaxaca decomposition. And what I find is that the majority, 60 to 80% of the difference in the means is not explained by differences in income, education, whether or not you use the internet at work, your age, those sorts of things. So the policy relevance, I think, of the finding is that sort of a simplistic view of how to remedy a divide, say by giving subsidies, direct subsidies, may not solve the problem because the subsidy is aimed at addressing the income difference, where we find that the income differences contribute very little to explaining the means differences in adoption. I also included in the discussion yesterday on the paper an analysis of mobile broadband. And if you include mobile broadband in the analysis, there's no difference really in across racial groups, or they're very, very small. So the decomposition analysis becomes almost pointless at that point. And we discussed a little bit yesterday at the meeting with some questions about whether or not the mobile piece of it needs to be rethought in the United States as to being something that some people may just prefer to a fixed connection. It may be plenty adequate for what they seek to do. And that may sort of make a digital divide of some sorts vanish. But that's a debate for the future. But I really do appreciate this. It's a great honor. I really wish I was there. And hope to be there next year. Good to see you, Heather.
Yes, please. I just wanted to point out, thank you. We wish that all of you could have been here, and we wish that you will return and resubmit papers for participating in the conferences. I want to point out the papers will all be available online, and so if you missed George's, it should be available, and the Young Scholars will be presenting their papers at 8:30 tomorrow morning in the Coral Ballroom.
And thank you so much, Dr. Hudson, for being our person on the ground today. Next year.
Thank you. No, this means it's a very important activity for PTC, and I really appreciate that Elizabeth and Jennifer have put into it. And I hope those in the room and those in the virtual world will stay tuned, because at 3 o'clock we have an interview of David Lasner, president of the University of Hawaii, with Vint Cerf, Google evangelist and one of the founders of the internet. So thank you to all the scholars, and thank you to the organizers for making this happen.
Thank you again. Thank you, Elizabeth and Jennifer.
Thank you. Thanks for your contribution, and congrats.
Congratulations to the young scholars on their awards.